Okay, make sure we're not muted. Let's maybe zoom in the camera a little bit. Too much. There we go, it's better. Alright, testing 1, 2, 3. Do we have sound? Where's the sound on this? Where's the sound on this? Looks good. Alright. Got anybody here? Got a few people. Tony, hey, welcome back. Alright, so there's a couple things I want to play with today with Blazor. I'd like to we'll do a little bit with WebAssembly, just because it's somewhat newer and it's more fun. And I also want to play around with the security model for Blazor and how to add some basically ASP.NET Core identity security to an existing Blazor app. So there's a couple places I've already got stuff in progress to work on, and we might get into some of that, but I want to kind of start from scratch and let people see what it takes to get started with Blazor, and then see what the experience is to sort of add some of the security to it. So there's already some good docs on this. Let me see if I can find them real quick. Let's try that. I think this is about the right place. Yeah, that looks right. So let me paste these into the chat for anyone that's watching. And this is going to be some of what we're going to look at today. Is I just want to get a better idea of how to hook all this up. Both for Blazor Server, where it's a little bit simpler because it's actually how everything works in ASP.NET Core by default, but also what you can do with Blazor WebAssembly, which you can see has a bunch of different options for how to secure it. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. I've already got eShop on Blazor open. We might come back to that later. Let's do a new window though. And it's going to tell me my end append is out of date, but bring this over here. We're going to create a new project. And we're just going to start from scratch. So we're going to look for Blazor. And we're going to create a new Blazor app. I might want to put this in source at some point, but for now we'll just call it Blazor App 3. And let's do a server app, even though that's a little more old school. And I want to see how authentication with individual user accounts looks with that. So we're going to keep this as storing user accounts in the app, which is just what you should be familiar with if you've done with it with ASP.NET Core. And say OK. It's going to create a SQL Server for that. We don't really need Docker support, so let's just create this. Alright, so it did that on my other screen, so here it is. And Blazor App 3, let's just start out by running it. Let's see what we have. And it's your usual hello world for Blazor, but notice now we have this register login section up here. So there's a counter, we can click it, there's data, we can fetch it, and if we refresh it, we get new data. And every time we load this, the counter is new because it doesn't actually have any persistence. We could add some of that today just to see what that looks like. But what I really want to do is use authentication and also some kind of roles or privileges to specify who can access what. So maybe not everybody can click the counter, right? Maybe you have to log in to do that. So let's look at the code for this. And we'll start with startup. And inside of startup, we're going to see that we are adding entity framework with DB context, and then adding identity with default identity using that DB context. This is pretty standard. This require a confirmed account. That might bite us, so I might turn that off, or I might just toggle it myself in the database. We're going to add Razor pages, which is standard Razor pages, which if you're not familiar with, you should check it out. Razor pages are pretty awesome. And then we're going to add server-side Blazor. This shipped last year, so it's getting close to a year old of being in production. and it's pretty stable at this point. We're going to add this authentication state provider, which we're going to revalidate who they are, of T, where T is the identity user, and that identity user is a built-in ASP.NET Core identity user. We could inherit from it, but I don't think it's done that for us in this template as yet. Yeah, okay. And we'll add our weather forecast service. And then down here, we have to say we're using authentication and authorization to make this work. But currently nothing is restricted to being just authorized. So now if we look at our pages, we start with index. This is our home page. Doesn't do a whole lot. This is our counter that we used. And it doesn't have a code behind. None of these have code behind. So it's just doing the code right here. And it's just incrementing. There's an error page, which so far we haven't run into. There's a host page, which just hosts the Blazor things that it needs. Let me see, what is this doing? I'm not sure where host is being used, so I have to look into that. Because it's not a shared file. So where is this? This is the equivalent to a layout, I think. Is this index using? No, it must be in imports.razor that we tell it to use. No. It's our layout. It's layout use host. Inherits layout component base. Host. I want to see where host is used. Endpoints maps to a fallback page of host. Is that the only place? Okay, so maybe that's just a fallback page for endpoints that don't hit anything else. And this one specifies layout is null. The other ones don't. And here's our app. Okay, and that's how Blazor works. That's our app.razor, and this is what specifies how everything else is going to load. Okay. Then we have some razor controls, like for login display. So if they're authorized, we'll display hello name and log out. Otherwise, if they're not authorized, we'll see the register and login, which we already saw. There's a survey prompt. Alright. And then the nav menu, which currently doesn't have any authorized stuff, but we could say, hey, maybe the counter, if we're going to lock that down, maybe that should only be visible if they are signed in. So if you've been to an ASP.NET Core MVC, you're familiar with using the authorized attribute. What's the equivalent for Blazor and Razor pages in this case? So when we want to use Blazor server, here, we can use the authorization component in the state provider. We're doing that. We can pass it in and then programmatically work with it to see whether or not someone is authenticated. We can write our own custom one, which I'm not worried about. I would like to be able to mark something as being requiring authorization. Okay. So here's authorization, basics of which are that you're either authenticated or you're anonymous. And then you might be in a role, you might have a claim, and you might have a policy that it is or is not satisfied. So this has a concept of policies. Authorized view is what you use to display UI depending on if they're useful, or depending on if they're logged in, which is useful. Simon Gearing, what's up? And so I'm going to use this authorized view probably in my nav to be able to say if they should see something that they otherwise shouldn't see. So then that's what they're suggesting right here. You can use this inside the nav menu component. Note that this approach only removes the list. It doesn't prevent the user from getting to it directly. So we'd want to be able to test that also, which we'll do. All right, we can also specify which roles it allows, which is great. And you can have a policy so that if you follow the content editor policy, then you can't access something, or you can access something. All right. So we'll talk about claims-based and policy-based in a minute. What I'm trying to get to now is the authorized attribute. And the syntax for that is simply @attribute authorize. Yeah, I'm playing with Blazor. It's been on my backlog for a while. I did some last summer with it, but I've been busy with other things. But now I've got some work to do that uses it, so I need to make sure I'm up to speed on it. So while I get up to speed and refresh my memory, I figure I'll stream it for all the rest of y'all too. Alright, so you need to use authorize on page components that are using the Blazor router. It's only performed as an aspect of routing, not for child components rendered on the page. If you want to have child components, you have to use an authorized view to wrap those to prevent them from being shown. Alright, so what I really want to test out first is, can I just take this attribute authorize, go back to our code, go to the counter that I'm saying I want to lock down, put that on there, and is that all there is to it? It should be. So now if we run this, and we're here, and we try to go to counter, it says, bam, not authorized. So that works. It might be nice if that not authorized actually did something nicer, like sent me to the login page, but that's fine. Alright, now this route is just /counter, so that's easy to remember. Next thing we want to do is take that authorized view, which we can steal from here. I guess we want that. And put that around our nav so that we only see the counter if we are in the appropriate role. So we'll take that and then close it off here. Like that. And just get rid of some white space. Now the counter is gone. But we can still navigate to it. But even then it'll say we're not authorized. Now I don't know where this is currently. Like if I want to modify this to be prettier, if I want to use it to redirect, I have to find where that is located. But we'll get to that. Alright, so let's see what happens if we register. And right now I think our registration is requiring me to authenticate. Well, that's okay. Which we can just do SMTP for dev. We'll capture the email that it's going to send with this localhost email server. And we'll just do Steve, let's do foo@bar.com with, sure, why not, register. And we have to apply our migrations the first time, refresh, continue. That's what just created the database. And now it says click here to confirm your account. Okay, normally this would be email. Oh, okay, so I don't need the email thing. So theoretically, I think I just confirmed my email by hitting that, so that's cool. So now I can log in, and we're in. That's good. And look, counter appears, and now we can counterize. So excellent. That was pretty easy. We would want to wire up that authentication page for verifying the account, which I don't see here. So it must just be one of the stock ones. We'd want to modify that in a real application so it would actually send an email. And the issue with it as it stands now is that there isn't an email service, an iEmail service wired up for it to use, not even a localhost one. So that would be pretty easy for us to add. Okay, so now let's see if we can add some roles. And then ultimately we'll get to policies. So the next thing that we want to do is say, okay, counter, it's not just enough that you be authorized, but you should also be in in a particular role. So we need some roles. And we can do this pretty much just from the database. So if I come in here and we look at my data connection is ASP.NET Core Blazor App 3 on LocalDB. So this looks like that. And Blazor App 3 is right there. And it has some tables in it. And it has some roles. It's a bit more involved with OpenID Connect to Azure AD. Yes, of course it would be, wouldn't it? Alright, so in here, this is not what I want. I want to view the data. In here, let me just right click and edit data, view data. So we have no roles. Alright, so if we want to say, okay, let's have administrators and administrators. And what is this thing? Concurrency stamp? I don't know what that should be. What is it? What is a concurrency stamp? It is of type nvarchar max. And it's nullable. Why are you not... the ID is the one that's the problem. I need a GUID. Alright, tools, create GUID, and what is my format? I just want a string. Think that'll work? Copy. So if you give me the whole... I just want the string. Like that. That works. Alright, so now we have this role administrators. Nobody's in that role. If we look at our users, I should just have my foo at bar in here. So, view data. There's foo at bar. So we can create another one called admin or something and put them in the admin role. And then we'll see if we can lock things down to have that person have access. So let's go back to the browser for now that we've created a role. We'll log out, we'll register, create admin at test.com, suggest a password, it's fine, register, confirm, and now we have here, if we refresh this, we have admin at test.com and it has this ID here. Now we want to put them in a role, so that's going to be this ASP.NET user roles table. View this data, you can see the user IDs and the roles are all blank. I'm going to put our new user ID in there. I'm going to find our role ID, which was this thing. Probably not. Is there another format here that's just the string? I don't know why it doesn't give me just the string. But you know, let's just go back over to here, click this, and come back over here, paste that, boom. So now we've said that that user is in that role. We don't have any way to really verify that yet, but let's go now back to our counter page. It is authorized. We'll specify roles equal administrators and save that, and we'll run the app again. Alright, let's log in. Let's log in as foo@bar.com. Log in, and this thing still shows up, but now we're not authorized. Right? I didn't tell it in the authorized view that it had to be an admin, but it is still in the page working. So now if I log out and we log back in as the admin, and now we can see it, and we still can't get to it. So that's not good. So why would admin not be able to get to it? Did I screw up putting him in the role? Administrators. That's what I called it, right? Administrators. This user, CCCCCD, is this user. Yep. So they seem to be in the role. If we go to index, welcome to our app. There's a survey. Let's see if we can print out their roles here. Which I think I can steal some code from the docs, because I saw that in the docs. So here, authorized roles equal, that's what I've got. And if I want to print out the roles, I've got to inject in the role provider. Users authenticated, there's your claims. So this will get me claims. And just print out the claims. I want to do the same thing but for roles, which they don't show. Let's just steal this whole page. And what would we call this thing? Claims principal.razor. Let's create a new page. C# interactive GUID.new GUID. You could do that. That would work. I want a new Blazor page is what I want. I want a razor something.razor. So is that a Razor component? I think it might be. Sure. So let's call this user claims. And paste everything in here. Claims data. Okay, didn't bring over the first line. Alright, now I don't actually have any claims, I don't believe. It should tell me whether or not I'm authenticated though, so let's at least see what that does. Alright, so if we come in here and we go to /user-claims, that works, and we can get this button, and it says I am authenticated, and here's my information, so that's handy. My main claim is just who I am. Alright, I'd like to get the role data though, so let's do the same thing, but now do user roles. Alright, so here's user roles. This will be over here. So role data, so we get role data, let's see, there's claims. If I change that to roles, it's going to let me rename it. No. F2 rename? No. Alright. Inject that state provider. I don't know if that lets me get access to roles. I hope it does. Get role data is get role data here. Alright, Simon Gearing says, if you need a more grunt for UI framework, Sync Fusion is giving access to their Blazor controls under the VS Community license. Alright. Hey, thanks for the following, Cool Wizard 1. Alright, so is auth state all I need? Can I get auth state from, or can I get roles from here? That's the question. User dot, let's say is in role. I get claims as a collection, I get identities as a collection, I don't get roles. Is in role. Do that. That's not really what I want, but I don't really want a list of claims though, I want a list of string, I think. Enumerable.empty of string, that's interesting. I haven't used that before. Alright, so if they're authenticated and then if they're in, if that, we could just say roles.add, which I think it really needs to be a list. Roles.add administrators. We'll have to clean this up at some point. There should be a way to get a list of roles. Is this Blazor WebAssembly project that you want to later embed into Dev Better? No, this is just me playing around, trying to refresh my memory on how authentication works. The WebAssembly stuff, this is Blazor Server. We'll look at WebAssembly in a little bit. WebAssembly security is a little bit different because it's more on the client, whereas this is all running on the server, so I have access to all the server data. So why is that not happy? I didn't change this, did I? Alright, so this is just going to be printing out the role. Now it's a string. This should probably just be a list of string, so I can add to it. That's not happy. Why? Well, I guess this could just be a list of string as well. Make my life easier. Alright, so that sounds good. Surname message I don't need. Alright, so are you authenticated? Are you an administrator? There we go, that looks better. I think we're good. And my real question is, why aren't I an administrator now? So when we run this again, when we go to this page, it still says we're not authorized. We're logged in as administrator. So we'll log out, log in again just to be sure. We're in again, we're as the admin, and we're going to /user roles. And we're going to fetch the role data, and it says we are authenticated, but it does not say we are an administrator. So the question is, what did I screw up? Because I tried to add them to a role, but I did it all in SQL, which is not always the most, reliable way to do this sort of thing. It could be that my role ID that I used was not a good one. So here's my data, there's my ID. Maybe it lowercases it or something, and the fact that I have an uppercase GUID is my problem. Because it probably tries to normalize that, so that could be the issue. So I'm going to cheat, and I'm going to take the user ID. I'm going to make that the role ID, because why not? I mean, unique is... It's going to let me do this. I'm killing the foreign key. I got to kill this row. So let's delete this row. Yes. And then we'll go over here and we'll make it this. Same as the user ID. But I don't want it to actually be exactly the same. So we'll just start it with a B as in Bravo. That's really hard to see. But now I can update it. There we go. And we'll copy it. Come back over here. Give this the role ID. Give this the user ID, which started with A as in alpha. Those should both work as foreign keys. So now we're there. Did Unicus ask a question that I missed? Oh, would a role be a claim too? There it is. Sorry, I missed that. LQ Dev 1, thanks for the follow. I missed that one too. Alright, so Unicus, roles a common claim if you use bearer middleware. It will automatically put that into your user claims principal so you can use is in role. Alright, if I was correct, and if this casing issue was my problem, then I should just be able to rerun this. Still an admin, and go right to user roles. And maybe it'll work? No, so it wasn't that. So then I'm still stuck. What is the question? Don't need that. I can reload that. Alright, what is the reason why I'm not in that role? So, and also, how do I get a list of roles? That's my other question. So, in here, I can get a list of claims. Nothing in here talks about the roles. Overview. Scaffold identity. Don't need any of that. So, let's go back to this overview. Authentication state provider is how I get access to the data, but it's not a role manager. Which is why it doesn't give me a list of roles. Can I just use the standard role manager type? I think I probably can. Alright, so here they're doing a check to see if the user is in role. But how would I get a list of roles? And also, why am I not showing as being in that role? Let's double check my logic here. So in user roles, I'm saying if user.isInRole administrators, and my role name is administrators twice. No typos. Alright, so if I put a breakpoint right here, and we F5 into this. Yeah, Junicus, I think you're correct. I expect I'm going to need the role manager, but the docs aren't showing me that, so I have to just go find that code myself, which I have somewhere else. Alright, so we're in here, let's get the role data, and we hit the breakpoint, so that worked. And the user bounced right over is in role, so let's look at our user. User's a claims principal. They have some claims here. Let's look at our results view. We looked at this already. So there's a name identifier, there's our name, there's the ASP.NET security stamp, and there's the PWD. Same as it was on the other one. If we look at identity, there's not a whole lot here, just the name. We are authenticated. There's our set of claims. Alright, if we go to the command or immediate window, we could say user dot is in role admins. False, which it should be, because I called it administrators. That should be true, but it's false. So why is that false? What do I have to do to make that work? So the first thing I want to do is see if I can get a list of roles to make sure that I did in fact add that role correctly. And like we're saying now, I think we need the role manager for that. So I have some sample code that does list roles. Let me pull that up in another window so I can steal it. And that really is on DevBetterWeb. Okay, there it is. Alright, so the DevBetter website, which is open source, it's out on GitHub, it has a set of pages for doing role stuff, like this one. And so this will list the roles and let you pick and choose who's in which role, right? And if we look at the code behind for this, it's going to take in a role manager of identity role. Maybe that's my problem. Do I actually have to have an identity role in my project? I don't think I do here. I think that's just the built-in Microsoft identity role, yeah. But I do think I need to inject this, and then I can get a list of them from here. So let's try that. So I'm going to do inject, and for that we want to have role manager of T. Give it a unique name. And do I need a reference here? Identity role could not be found. Microsoft ASP.NET Core Identity. Microsoft ASP, so you're not pulling that in yet. So at using that. So I'm going to add that to my import so it'll be available to everyone. And now that's happy. And Microsoft ASP.NET Core Identity, this shouldn't be needed either. Okay, so now we've got a role manager. It's in a property called My Role Manager. And if I want to get a list of all the roles, I should be able to do that somewhere. This should really be the user roles. Because I'm going to use private list of role. Is it role? It's identity role. Private list of identity role. Roles. And that needs to be a U. Equal new list of that. Alright. And there's all that. Then we just want to say roles equal my role manager dot roles. Like that. Probably don't even need that. Can it convert an iQueryable? I guess I need a .to list. Good. Alright, now I just want to do another for each. I don't really even want it to be in there. I want it to be over here. Say all roles. There. For each role in all roles. Put in role dot name. And you know what? I might want the ID too, so just for fun. Let's do that. Okay, so let's see what that does. There were errors. That should be user rules. Right. Now, in here, we want to go to /user roles, and we're going to blow up. Because I did not register user rules. Alright, that makes sense. So if I go into startup of my other application over here, I see somewhere I'm configuring that's in its own area. And here, identity hosting startup. And in DevBetterWeb's code, it looks like this. So we add identity, and then we add this claims principal factory with an identity role. Is that what I need? Maybe? I don't know. I know roles are working on this one. There's nothing else role related here. I don't think there's anything else role related in startup. Configure services. Configure that. Connection string, mediator, MVC, Swagger, repositories, and Fig. That's it. So yeah, there's nothing role related there. So this little bit here, the scoped user claims principal factory, and maybe that's what I need. That ties together an application user and an identity role. Let's grab that. Let's give it a shot. So in startup, in configure services, we already have an authentication state provider of identity user. I wonder if that has another option where it also takes in a role. But let's add some white space here. And we'll put this guy here. We don't have an application user, we have an identity user. Which I have not extended at all yet. So that should build, and let's see what that does for us. Apparently on add default identity you can also do add roles. Alright, that's good to know. Internal server error. Scoped implementation type. Unable to resolve service for type role manager. Alright, maybe we'll try Junicus's suggestion of add roles. Alright, so we may not need that. Add default identity, options. Is it an option or is it a separate thing? We'll try it here. Dot add roles. Ooh, we can add role manager. Of identity role, I guess. Dot add role manager. You want to have a type though. T role manager. I guess there's a built-in role manager of like that. Is that going to do it? Did you create the app with auth scaffolding on? Yes, I just did it, not from the CLI, I did it from Visual Studio. Alright, you don't like this at all. Unable to resolve a service of type iRoleStore while attempting to create role manager. This really ought to do that for me. Right? If you need role store, you should be adding a role store. Do I have to do add role store also of role store of identity role. I mean, this is starting to get a little silly with how much of this I have to plumb together. Like, can't I just say services.add default roles? Maybe services.add default roles. Services.add roles. There's none of that, huh? Alright, I feel like there could be some more helper methods than having to do each single one of these. Alright, so still trying to get roles to work with Blazor. Yeah, post a link, Junicus, go for it. Is there a docs thing that shows how it's all wired up? Now it can't resolve service DB context from role store. Yeah, I figured it would be to the documentation, if that's what you mean. If it's a Word doc, okay, good. Okay, yeah, thank you. Add policies, okay. How do I add? Yeah, I did that. That should be all I need, right? Like, towards the end, it shows how to do it. I did that, though. I guess I also need to add any framework stores after that, maybe? Maybe that's the problem. Maybe I'm doing it in the wrong order. Because I'm doing this after Entity Framework, and I think it needs to be before it. So if we do this, maybe we don't need these, because I'm not customizing them. If I wanted to change what type they were, I might need to do that. But that might be all it is. Let's try that. Hey, nice. It didn't blow up. That's good. That's progress. The problem with the builder pattern is sometimes its order is significant, and that it needs to have better error handling to tell you that. Like, it should be able to detect. Alright, it's still showing nothing for... Oh, there it goes. Yeah, okay. As soon as I click the button, then it shows it. So I'm authenticated. There is this role administrators, and I'm not in it. Alright, so how would I add myself to it? Clearly, this is not working. I don't want that. Let's delete this data. So me doing it by hand, I'm failing at. So let's nuke that, and let's just do it in the code. So now in user roles, I have a role manager. I know there's a list of roles. And we're going to say if not user dot is in role administrators user dot add or my role manager dot add. How do I add a user to a role? Dot back to your doc. Role based auth. Okay. I can require a role. Alright, back to my doc. In here, in the roles code behind here, I say on post add user to role, user role membership service, add user to role async. Okay, that's what I need. So I need a user role membership. That's mine. Okay, go to implementation on that. And what this thing actually does is it says go get a user, and then go get a role, and then user manager is what does it. Add role. Okay. It's also user manager, and you can use it to add the role. Yep. Right. That's what I'm thinking too. So I think I want basically this code. So I need a user manager of T in here also, I guess. So we'll just come over here at inject user manager of identity user my user manager. Okay, then I can look up the user, which is basically this user. But so if we're not in this role, then we could say var admin role equals my role manager dot find by name async administrators await. This is async already, so we're cool with that. Okay, and my user we already have. Alright, that's this user here, and that's still in scope. So then I can just say my user manager dot add to role async identity user user and string role. What? I thought I had to look up the role. Okay, if I just need a string, I can just do this. And at that point, I don't need this. I just need to async this thing. Alright, so why is this user not right? That's a claims principal user. I need it to be an identity user. So I do need var identity user equals my user manager dot find by ID async of user dot what? You're just playing for now? Yeah, I'm just playing for now. I want to see why this guy's not in the role he should be. Alright. And I can't remember. Do I want user.identity.name or do I want to get the ID? I guess we'll say .name and we'll just change this to find by name. I thought I had the ID somewhere easy to get to, but maybe not. Alright, and then this becomes identity user. And then you should be happy with that. And then you should also be async. Await. That's my problem. This should be await. Boom. Alright, now you're still not happy. Cannot convert from identity role to identity user. Oh, that should be my user manager. Now we're happy. Alright, so if they're not in the administrator's role, which they won't be, we're going to look them up and we're going to add them to that role. And the first time we do this, they still won't show up in the list, but then if I hit it again, they should. So that's what I'm expecting. We're in here, we go to /user roles, see get role data. They are authenticated, but they're not in a role. And there's my list of roles. Do it again, and again, and again, and again, and it's not working. So when are they ever going to be in that list of roles? Let's go look at the data. ASP.NET user roles, refresh. Look, it added them now. But the is in role is just simply not working. So maybe my is in role check is not using the correct code. So this check is failing. But if we say if my user manager dot is in role async identity user user, which I need to look that user up. So I guess I just need to do this earlier. Go up there. Identity user, comma, string role. We'll put a little bang on the end of that just so we see that it's coming from this other one. Alright, and this needs to be awaited. Alright, so this user is in role is not working. This one I hope does work. Let's find out. Okay, get the role data. Administrators! Alright, so if we use the user role manager, it works. If we just ping off of is in role, it doesn't work. Why is that? I wonder if someone's ever asked that before. So that would be user dot is in role not working. User manager works. Let's try that. Just be an MVC 4. That's ancient. I need to remove the role manager. Alright. I guess I need to say ASP.NET Core. Could it be you need to do some kind of claims transform? The claims principal wants to do role claims. I don't think my claims know about the role, right? Because when I come in here, close some of these down. And instead of going to user roles, let's go to user claims. Right, the user claims don't know anything about my roles. Right, I'm not specifying them. So there's got to be some way to show the roles in the claims. And I think that's the issue. Role manager, etc., etc. This is a long question. I hope at some point he's saying, hey, this thing doesn't work. You have to add that role's identity role. Okay, pretty sure we did that. And then we have to add role claims to the user object. Getting the roles and claims to show up in the cookie involves either using service add identity or use add default identity and add this line. User claim principal factory. Okay, I think I have that already, but maybe I don't. I think I commented it back out. So let's go back to startup. And I had it right there, but I got rid of it. I think that's my problem. So let's put that back in. Let's get rid of that. And I think I literally want it to be what I had there. And those are the same exact things, except they're using application user. So let's try that. Let's see if it shows up in my claims then. Okay, so we're here. Let's go to /user claims. Get my claims data. Still nothing about roles. It's not good. Doesn't bode well. And over here, roles. Get the roles. Still only picks it up from the role manager. Okay. Some changes from ASP.NET Core. Add default identity. Let's create some roles. It's good names for these roles. Is it Vietnamese? I don't know. Maybe. Alright. Role extensions. Initialize the role manager. And we're going to create these roles when we start up. Now in startup, we're going to initialize and start those up. Fine. Alright. So that's just him seeding his database. And then here, these don't work. Cannot use as an role correctly. I don't know why. Check for role. In this case, we need to register a service like this. Add the roles. Finally, we can use this. User isn't role. Isn't role, isn't role. Fix authentication like this. Add default identity, add roles, add role manager, add stores, and then in add authentication options, specify all three of these things. Alright, I don't know what I'm doing for authentication options. Let's look at that. So, where is that? Add authenticate. That's under services. I'm not doing any of that. So, let's do that here. So let's do that here. Alright, so we're going to add authentication here. And the application scheme will be our authentication and challenge scheme, and our sign-in will be that. I'm not sure that's what we want, but let's see if that changes anything. Okay, let's go to user claims. One of these days I'll add it to the nav so I don't have to type it in. Nothing different here. I'm authenticated and here's my claims, but they're the same as they were. And this is user roles. Okay. So that didn't work either. Alright. Let's try ASP.NET Core Identity Add Roles to Claims. User role claims. It's from 2016. So he's using role manager.add claim. And okay, so that's just saying which things that role can do. That makes sense. That's because roles are not claims, they're different. So an admin can do these things, and an account manager can do those things. And we can view their claims, okay? But maybe I just don't want to check for user.isnRole. This is from only a little bit ago. Creating and deleting roles. Alright, so I know how to do that. Just take a role manager and you can create and delete roles. That's fine. How do I check if a user is in a role, though? So that uses the user manager isInRole async. They don't just use user.isInRole. The only place they do it is isInRole async. So why doesn't user.isInRole work in ASP.NET Core Identity? Why do we have it if it doesn't work? Here's my role table, there's my user table, there's my user and role table. Yep, that's exactly what I did. In my login, I do this. Okay. Ignore the role ID. That's fine. User isInRole is checking the cookie. You're checking this in the same request. Cookie is not there yet. So you gotta use the isInRole async. Alright, that's cool. This link may help. Alright, let's try that. In short, if you're using add default identity like this, the roles won't work because they're not implemented there. So instead you've got to do this, and add the default UI, and add the token providers. Do I need that? I think I might need token providers. That rings a bell. And I need to say identity role when I do add identity. I'm not sure I did that. So where is my default identity? It's right there. So I only added here. I didn't do identity role. Is that an option? Doesn't seem to like that. Add identity. I did add default identity. It doesn't support it. Alright. Alright, so if I want it to be add identity, we could add all this. So what if we try that? You gotta log out and log back in. Alright, so let's try that. So we got what we got. Let's do this instead. Looks like it's a pretty good match for what I've already got. This just needs to be identity user. We can add this require confirmed account, but I don't really care about that. Everything else looks fine. Let's try that. And I'm going to have to log out and log back in, and then we can look at that cookie too and see what we get. So log out and log in. Yeah, you would think this could be a lot easier, Simon. I agree. Log in, F12, application, cookies for here. So our application cookie, so I can't really tell what is in there. Let's go look at user claims and get that data. And now, did it add anything? I think that name identifier, that's just my ID. That was there before. Oh no, this is new though, right there. That's where it is. I thought I saw a new role. Okay, good. So now I have a claim that says I'm in administrators, which is awesome. I just had to configure it correctly, which apparently is really easy to get wrong. And I'm expecting to see this twice now, which I do. Perfect. So I'm able to get it from the cookie, and I'm able to get it from the database using the role manager. Whew. Okay, that was harder than I thought it would be, but we got that sorted out. What did I end up adding? I did this. Instead of add default identity, which does not support role manager by default, I used add identity, which has an overload that lets you pass in identity role with it. And then I used add role manager, and the rest of this was kind of the same, but this default token provider might have been involved. I don't think it did though. So I don't think these two matter. In fact, just to verify it, I think I can do that. I don't care about the default UI. So let's just verify those didn't do it. So we'll come here, we'll log out, we'll log in. That's not good. Oh, the default UI was important. Yeah, that part I needed. So, oops. Okay, I need the default UI. I don't think I need the token providers, but we'll find out. So when you add default identity, it does default UI for you. Alright, so do that. Alright, so we are able to log in. Now we get this UI, that's our default UI. We log in, and we're here, and we go /user claims, and get the data, and we see that role is still there. Excellent. And because we see that there, we know that when we come here, and we say get role data here, we're going to get both of those techniques are going to work. So yeah, so I think we're good now. The root of the issue was that I was not storing the stuff in the cookie. The reason it wasn't going in the cookie is because I wasn't using this call, which I should have been, and doing it this way didn't work. So we'll do that. Alright, get rid of that. And if I were using actual Git here, I would do a commit and say this is a good state. But now I do think I want to add claims. So a good claim would be, well, I mean this code that's in the docs is not wrong. It didn't have this, and it didn't deal with roles. But to be fair, they're kind of pushing people away from roles, right? So they'd rather you just be using claims anyway without necessarily dealing with roles. Alright, so one of those pages I was on, that's not it. One of those pages I was on was talking about claims, how to add claims. So I think it was a blog post, adding claims in ASP.NET Core identity, and I could just look at the docs. So maybe it's this. This should work. Configure services, adding policy. I want to get to policies, but I want to do claims first. Junica says, I see that just adds the role manager to the container, but doesn't necessarily enable the roles in the claims. Right, exactly. Which is not necessarily obvious. And the other thing is, it's just weird that when you call user is in role, it just doesn't do anything. Like, throw an exception if you're not wired up. But it can't tell the difference between the cookie not having the role because you're not in it, and the cookie not having the role because you didn't wire up the thing that puts it in the cookie. So it's tough. There almost needs to be something in the cookie that says, roles not enabled. Alright, so we can authorize things with a policy. I don't want to use policies yet. Why am I on claims-based auth and all it wants to talk about is policies? It says adding claim checks, and these aren't claim checks, these are policy checks. What is up with this? I think this doc is just wrong. So when I get to policy-based auth, what's it going to do? It's going to say add a policy, and then it's going to do a whole bunch of other stuff. Right, add a policy. Okay. Alright, a claim represents what the subject is, not necessarily what they can do. A policy takes a claim and maps it to what the user is allowed to do. So if I want to add a claim somewhere, I could do that. I guess I'd do that on user claims would be the easiest place. So let's go to my nav menu and let's add these links to user claims and user roles because I meant to do that. So here, fetch data is going to be user claims href, user claims, and user roles. Okay, let's verify that that actually works. Cool, that should work. And let's look at, was it this guy? No, I don't think so, but let's see. So to add a new claim, we need this factory. We need to generate a claim and add this claim. Okay. And we have to add the claims principal factory, which I think I already have. Alright, that's this thing I added right there. I user claims principal factory. Okay, so I've got that. So if I just want to do generate a claim, task of claims identity, what calls this? Oh, this is creating a custom one. I see what you're doing. I want to just add one. That's how you get the claim. Alright. I don't want that. I want to just add a claim to somebody. Alright, so we can map an external claim like this to be this and this. That's great. What if I just want to create a claim and add it to a user? The claims principal, get the claims principal, adding claims. Okay, so if a user has a claim, then do something, otherwise do something else. So if not user that has claims country, add a claim. And then claims identity. You have to add the identity to the principal back to the user. That's weird. Right, let me just steal this code. And then with your claims transformation object built in, the last step is to add it to your thing. I didn't create one of those. This is for Blazor. This is from last November, so hopefully it's still accurate. Alright, this looks important. Who wrote this? Peter Vogel. Okay, I know Peter. I don't know that this is still current though. So, I'm not sure if that's what I need to do or not. We can try it though. This seems like way more low-level code and more complexity than I would like. But that may just be the state of Blazor at the moment. Alright, let's assume we don't need this yet. Let's pretend that we can just do this. And when that doesn't work, we'll come back. So in user claims, when we click that button, it does that. Let's do another button to add a claim. So button, click, go get the data. Button on click equal add country claim. Add country claim. Okay. So then down here in my code, private async task add country claim. And let's go grab our code here. Do that. Principal is not what I want though. I want user auth state. Let's do that again. Put that there. So we'll get the authorization state, authentication state, get the user, check if user has claim of country, otherwise do all this, and then do that. And then somehow save that. What do I do to persist this now? The last step is to add it to your application. No, hold on. Yeah, there's no persistence going on here. So I don't think that's going to get saved. Let's see what happens. If this just blows up or what. So user claims, get their data, add a country claim, and get their data. Alright, that worked. Now they're Canada. But it didn't save it, I'm sure. So now if we do something else, come back, get it, it's still there. That's good. If we log out, log in, admin, claims, get it, not there. So it stored it, but it stored it in a cookie. It didn't store it in the actual database. So I gotta store the claim. It's useful to be able to just add it to the cookie. So stores the claim in the cookie. So now I need to just do how to persist the claim. So that worked. Persisting user claims ASP.NET core identity. So we get a claims identity, we add some claims, that's great. This says they're not persisted in the cookie, that's fine. But this says, does not set a cookie, alright. So we got to use the user manager. So it's that. Create records in the database. Okay. Claims you put on claims identity before the user signs in are persistent in the cookie. If you put claims on identity without, those are lost. Alright, so it looks like after I create this, then I can add the claim, but that doesn't store it. I really need to use this user manager to store it. I need some way to pull it out of there then. So let's see. Save the claim in the database. It's going to be something like that. Do I still have a user manager on this one? I don't think I ever added one here. No, that's on roles. So I'll come over here and steal my user manager. And then down here I can say this is my user manager. Takes in an identity user. So I get the user as an identity user. It's that. So we need that. Okay. Claim types dot country Canada. Why Canada? I don't know. Oh, there's a bunch of different types of claim types. There's a lot of these built-in claim types. Cool. Okay. Alright, so if that's saved in the database, that means the next time I come back here, it should really still have it. So let's try this. So go here, go to claims, view the data, not there, add the claim. Now it's there. It's still there. Let's go check the database. User claims, show the data. There it is, Canada. Okay, now let's log out and log back in as admin. User claims, get the data, and there it is. Okay, so that seems to work. So if we come back to user claims, which I've lost right here, this works. Okay. Now we want to add a policy. The policy is going to be that Canadians can update counters or something like that, not just administrators. So we go back to counter, and we can get access to that now. So that was broken before because we weren't persisting the role into the cookie. That's why this was showing not authorized. So we fixed that too when we fixed the other bit. Okay, so I want to say there's a policy now on there. So I have that open already somewhere, right? Yeah. So adding claim checks, policy, employee only. I want a policy of Canadian. So on the counter in here, instead of roles, we'll just do this as another attribute. There's my policy. I think these can stack anyway, but I'm going to comment out the one. Right? I need a closing paren. That comment doesn't look very good. That's not a good comment there. No. Control KC will do the right comment for me. Alright, so how do I say that someone is in that policy? Well, here, we're going to do that. We're going to go back to startup, and we're going to add authorization now. Add policy, Canadians only, require claim. I don't want them to just require the claim. I want it to be that they have a claim country and that its value is something, right? Employees requires that claim be there. Simplest one just looks for the presence of a claim and doesn't check the value, right? Okay. Policy require claim. Most claims come with the value. You can specify a list of allowed values, which just follow it. Alright, so you can add one or more additional ones. So Canadians only, country, comma, Canada, allowed values. Got it. Alright. So if that works, let's test it. We can log out, we can log in, we can say we are foo@bar.com, who has no country, and they can hit the counter and it's not authorized. And we can log out, we can log in, we can say we're now admin, the Canadian admin, hit the counter, and they're not authorized, even though they are Canadian country. So, let's see, I think I need to match this country to be claims identity options dot country, or whatever it was that I used over on here. Claim types. There it was, claim types. Claim types dot country. Give me a namespace. Alright, that looks better. Okay, so build that, run that, and we're still admin. Check my claims. We've got identity claims country, and we can hit the counter. Alright, so that works. So my policy is that. Alright. Now what I really don't like about this is that this is really not necessarily the best place to put this code, and it's not very testable. I'd like to be able to pull that out somewhere else and define it somewhere else, but we should also be able to see now if the policies are being stored in the database. I'm not sure if they are. The policies are just code. So the claims are data, the roles are data, the policies are behavior, those are code. So they don't go in the database. So it'd be nice if that behavior could be pulled out of startup, because it doesn't seem like the right place for that. Alright, so policy of Canadians only, claim is what country you are. That all makes sense. We can lock things down using a policy or using roles, but not with claims, I don't think. No. Which is good, so we'll keep that. Simon Gearing, is there an option to add factory for it? Factory for what? Where are we talking about? Oh, I know what you mean. You're talking about in startup. You're talking about a factory for the policy. Options dot policy, default policy. I can say get policy. What does that do? Returns a policy by name. From where? Where would that work from? Caprino asks if .NET 5 adds hot reload for Blazor. I'm not sure. I know you can use Blazor WebAssembly, so you don't need to worry about it. It's just running all in the client. But I don't know if it if .NET 5 is adding that for Blazor, honestly. Right, take back control of policy and make it easier to test. Yeah, there should be a way. I'm not sure what this is doing. This is saying returning a policy for a specified name. That assumes that I've already added it somewhere. Not sure why I would use this here. I don't think I would. Because these policies don't exist until I add them here. They're not in persistence anywhere. There's certainly, I could pull this stuff out and make it like my own helper method or extension method or something. Instead of doing this add authorization here, I could do it anywhere else outside of startup. Alright, so I got users working. I got anonymous versus authenticated working. I got authorization with roles working. And I got claims working. All with Blazor server. I've got about 25 minutes left. Is there anything else that I really want to do with this and see how hard is it to just add this to something? So maybe we have a look at that Blazor eShop on Blazor app. Alright, because it's got an existing legacy web forms page. It's a separate project. And then there's the eShop on Blazor. Let me just do a fetch on this, pull, sure I get the latest, and then we'll do a branch. We'll say Ardalis auth. Alright, now let's play with this for a minute. So let me close all the documents, come into startup, configure services is not doing anything with auth, so I think we want to do a DB context and an identity and that all the way down to there. So we'll say only Canadians can get to the thing, and then this authentication state provider I probably also need, but we'll get to that in a minute. So let's see if in 25 minutes if we can just add login support to this thing. So here, grab all that code, get rid of the stuff we don't want. Probably need to add some projects. So this is Netcore 3.0, and it has EF. Let's see what this one has. This is 3.1. It has these packages. Let's see if I can bump this to 3.1 without breaking the world. And then we'll add these packages. EF core, EF core, EF core, EF core. I guess we'll get rid of that one. And we need ASP.NET Core identity. That's all logging and autofact. That should be fine. So let's see what this does. Alright, now this hopefully is just going to be using statements. No. App, oh wait, I don't have an appdb context. That's going to be a problem. So in data, I need appdb context. So we'll just steal that. And we'll throw that in here. It has data. So we'll just paste this class right here. Pull it out into another file. Like that. And then make sure it's got the namespace it needs. Alright, that should get rid of a couple things. Identity user and identity role, those should just be namespaces. And then this should be a namespace. And then this should also be a namespace. Cool. Alright, now still need claim types, namespace, and that was working before. What did I do there? Oh, it's using old entity framework, not EF core. That's a problem. Catalog DB context is using actual EF DB context. Guess this should be a EF core DB context, and we'll see. System data entity, I don't want that anymore. Do I even need this? What if I just used application DB context? Wonder if that would work. Oh, you know what? Let's just keep both. Alright, we're going to keep EF for this. Alright, so when this asks, do you want to install EF? We're going to say, sure. Where was that question asked? There. Would you like to install package entity framework? Yes. Use sure. Alright, so we're going to have both EF and EF core in here, just because I don't want to migrate this one over. And I forgot it was actually using EF. Okay, they probably won't be talking to the same database, but that's okay, because my application DB context is basically just going to be for identity. Why is a Blazor sample using old school EF, says Simon? Because it's a migration from legacy web forms. So I didn't write this thing, the C# on Blazor. It's a Microsoft sample to show how to go and take a legacy web forms app and move it over. And if we make this startup project and we run it, and it works, we'll see if that part works. Hey, it worked. Alright, so this is the web forms version. Alright, you can see right there, it says web forms. If you take that same exact code, you make this one startup. This is meant to show customers that already have a bunch of web form stuff how they would migrate it over and use Blazor. And it's a nice demo. I mean, it actually shows that it's not that much work. I've broken it at the moment, so that's why this isn't working. But normally it works, right? If I hadn't just tried to change a bunch of stuff, it would work. So let's build this. Yes, C# Fritz has some web forms components that could help. That's true. Build succeeds. So what's broken? Let's look at that error again. Could not load file or assembly configuration manager. App config. Create database if not exists. Okay. This all looks to be related to what I broke when I get rid of the startup for this initializer. Alright, what did I break? I thought I put it all back together again. So this catalog DB initializer has what it needs. Catalog DB context is not using core, so it still works the way it did. We should have a app settings as our database. Our catalog DB context connection string. I did not do migrations or anything yet for AppDB context, but we're not quite there yet. So file not found. Alright, did I break the project file? That's what was there before. Did I take... Ooh, I did take out EF. It was on some weird beta version before. Let's see, what did I have? Let's look at my changes in the project file. Alright, so we changed it to 3.1. I hope that didn't break anything. And it was using the 6.3 preview something something, so maybe that was important. So let's see. Oh, it was important. Okay, so that's all it was. Cool. So here it is in Blazor working. We can edit. We can change the name of something. Save. This save never gets rid of it, but cancel does. And that worked. Cool. Alright. Now I want to still add authentication to this. So that's where we're trying to get to. So let's go close that down. Let's come back to here, here. Don't care about the model. I do care about the page. Index.razor. We just want to add an authorized attribute. And that's going to look a lot like this attribute. In fact, we'll even say it's Canadians only. Alright. Now, I did add that policy right here in this. What I haven't done is put anyone in that spot, that role. So it should just kick everybody out. Let's see if that works. Nope, didn't work. Maybe we just put it on create. But first let's figure out why it's not working. So on index, this create link with this link wrapper, we can put in an authorize view like that. And we can say if they're authorized, we'll let them see this markup. Like that. Alright, so let's start with that. See if we can get that to work. No. Requires a cascading parameter of type task authentication state. Okay, so because this is task authentication, do I have that in the other one? Hang on. Alright. This works. Nothing interesting there. My error message says I need task authentication state. It's Blazor on the server in both cases, right? So there's my authentication state provider. Did I not bring that across? I did. That's there. Did I bring it here? I meant to. I think I didn't. So I think that goes there. Authentication state provider. That. And I had to add that. Alright, so over here, this is in here somewhere. Right here. So I need to take this code and copy it over, I guess. I should probably scaffold the whole identity section too while we're at it. Because the other one doesn't have any of this. So let me just go here, go to File Explorer, copy that, go over here. I don't have an areas folder yet. Open this in File Explorer and add a new folder called areas, and then in there add this. Alright, and now we have this thing, and this should just be eShop on Blazor, I think. The same for these ones here. They don't have any namespaces though. Yeah, they're fine. Alright, let's build that. Still can't find it. So, namespace. getting closer. I don't know why that red squiggle's there, but the compiler is fine. So let's build it. And authorization requires, alright, why are you giving me that? Consider using cascading authentication state to supply this. How do I do that? So it's working on the other one. Common errors. Okay. So luckily the project wasn't creating using the template. Wrap this around some part of the UI tree. For example, in app-razor. Alright, so in my, this is a migration thing. In my Blazor app 3, I have an app.razor, and it has this at the root. Copy. eShop on Blazor has somewhere an app-razor. It does not have that at the root. Well, there you go. So paste this guy in, wrap that there. That's all there is to it. Doesn't look happy. Turn around router. Alright, why are you unhappy? Unexpected name. Well, let's see if it works. Okay. Still needs cascading authentication state. But we did what it said. I have met your demands. Namespaces can be globally added. Alright, let's do this. Authorization namespaces should go in imports.razor. So that's going to be where? Shared? You don't have an imports.razor. You do, right in the root. Alright. Copy that. You do have an imports.razor. Alright. You just don't have, fine. You don't have one of these. You got authorization, you don't have components authorization. So I think that's all you need. So we'll get rid of that. Paste that right there. Does that do it? It does. Look at that. Alright. And since we're not Canadian, we don't have access to that button, so the button disappeared. So that was good. The weird thing is the page is still working, because I thought I said no to the page. Alright, this attribute here should be affecting the page, even if we just say authorize, and that's it. That should require us to go to the login page or something, right? And it does not. Only use authorize on page components reached via routing. Yeah, okay, we covered that already. That page attribute. That's what we're looking at, right? At page attribute. Does it need to be above the injection, maybe? Maybe that order matters. Nope. Alright, what else am I missing? Authorized view works. Authorized attribute is just being ignored. Aha, okay, so here's where I would set if they're not authorized. And this is the default. Okay. Alright. So I gotta figure out why that last little bit's not working, but I think we're in pretty good shape for today. Let's see now who we can go raid and get out of here. Raid a channel. Let's go back to Clark. Haven't raided him in a while. Alright, so thanks everybody for hanging out with me. I'm going to go take care of some other stuff. Hope you have a nice weekend. And look for some more Blazor stuff from me coming out later this month. I will talk to you later. See ya.